G'day Bomber fans. Opening round kicks off tonight. It is Sydney versus Carlton, the start of the 2026 AFL season. But realistically, as exciting as that is, could us Essendon fans give any less of a hoot? We are fully focused on next Friday night against the Hawks. That is really when the season properly kicks off for us, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. We are going to be trying to predict the lineup for that game, which is no easy feat, especially a week away from the game itself, but we're going to give it a go here today. Before we look at the players that will be taking part in that or could be taking part in that Hawthorn game, we have to look at the players that won't be taking part in that Hawthorn game, because it is the eve of the season, which means AFL clubs are required to release their full injury list. Unless you're Geelong, then you can do whatever you want. But here is Essendon's injury list. We have 10 players on it. Isaac Kako kicks it off with that hamstring. Now, he is a chance to play against Hawthorn. He has not been ruled out yet. The 1 to 3 weeks doesn't instill me with a lot of confidence, I'll say that, especially when you're a week away from the AFL season. So, not sure how I feel about that. I'd rather the 1 to 2. 1 to 3 is a bit scary, but Isaac Kako is genuinely a chance to play against the Hawks still. He's been ramping up his training loads, really because it's such a minor hamstring setback. It just depends on how he's doing session by session. It is often harder to really judge how players will return with those minor ones, given they're sometimes, 2 to 3 week injuries. So, Isaac Kako is in the frame to play against the Hawks, that has to be said. The rest of these players are not. So Sullivan Roby with that back hotspot, he is a week away from full integration. He's already integrated pretty much into main training. He is doing a lot of work, Sullivan Roby, which is awesome to see, and he is looking good out there, looking fit out there. He is definitely going to integrate through the VFL when he does return, and that could well be round one. Round one of the VFL is a week after round one of the AFL, so he may be in the frame to play round one of the VFL season, which would be awesome news. Then you get to guys like Reece Unwin and Jordan Ridley with those calf injuries. Reece Unwin is less than a month away. Jordan Ridley is more than a month away, but that could vary either way, really depend, because, Reece Unwin with his age and Jordan Ridley with his history, his injury history. You then get to the dreaded TBC squad, the famous James Stewart TBC. You've got Will Setterfield with his foot. I'm just assuming there's been another setback without knowing. Obviously, we can't say too much, but he has been on the injury list all preseason with that Liz Frank. He was kind of integrating back into sessions more and more before the practice games, but that's kind of halted a little bit. So I don't know. Look, a conversation for another day, but I was always, and you guys would know, I was always iffy about re-signing Setterfield. I love him as a player, not sure about his body, especially when you got guys like Tom Blamiras on the side, who's just been picked up by North Melbourne, who looks like a genuine AFL player. So hopefully Setterfield is back sooner rather than later, but who knows? He's got the TBC. Killian Burke with that hamstring, that seems to be a pretty significant one if he's been away from action for so long and is still in that TBC squad. And then you've got the ACLs. Tom Edwards is the most advanced of the lot. He's actually removed the non-contact cap. I'm not sure, he's probably done it based on advice from his coaches. He wouldn't just do that behind their backs, but he's removed the cap, which means there is contact allowed in minor drills for Tom Edwards. So that is awesome news. That means he is very close to returning. Nick Bryan, probably a bit later. I think round 5 or 6 was the go. And then you've got Lewis Hayes, who's going to be second half of the season, and Nick Martin, who is unfortunately out for the season. So there are 10, possibly 9 players unavailable for round 1 through injury, depending on whether Isaac Kako is deemed fit or not. That means there are 35, possibly 36 players to choose from if we are selecting our round 1 team. But before you select the round 1 team, the best 23, you've got to select a squad of 26. And I've tried to do that today. I'm not only predicting the best 23, but I'm predicting the squad of 26 as well, which is honestly an even harder task. I don't know why I've done it. So you start with the defensive zone. You've got Zach Reed and Ben Mackay as the only key defenders, really, because after them, you've got Jordan Ridley, who's injured, Kale Jurine, who I don't think is going to play footy anytime soon. That's probably my main worry with this team, and I'll get to that more with the best 23, but the key defenders, not a lot of depth there. You get to the general defenders where there's almost too much depth. You've got so many players to choose from. You've got Andy McGrath, Mason Redman, Zach Johnson, Jaden Ewan, Angus Clarke. Then you've got Max Contagianis and Jacob Farrow, who we're going to talk about more in the best 23 video, because I Don't see both of those guys playing, but I think there is genuinely room for one of them to feature against the Hawks. Lockie Blackiston, he's the sole ruck. Vigo Vicentini is not going to play footy anytime soon. Neither is Nick Bryan with that injury. So Lockie Blackiston is going to take the reins as that sole ruck, which I think we all really enjoy because he looked really good both in that Richmond practice game and the St Kilda one against De Koning and Rowan Marshall as well. You get to the midfield, you've got Zach Merritt, Sam Durham, Jai Caldwell, Darcy Parish. Then you get to guys like Archie Roberts, who's going to run through the midfield a fair bit, we'd assume, as well. Fiorini and Jackson Pryor I've got on the wings. We'll talk about that more in the best 23. And Dyson Sharp is definitely in the frame to play round one, especially after that really impressive practice match performance against St Kilda. If you want to find out more about that practice match performance, go check out my last video I did. I went through the entire squad of 26 that played against St Kilda, and Dyson Sharp was honestly probably the one that I enjoyed watching the most. You go to the forward line, you've got Nate Caddy, Kyle Langford, Peter Wright. There's probably one big name missing here who I'm going to talk about in a second in Archer May, but it's just tough to fit all of them in, especially with the general forwards with Isaac Kako, Xavier Dersma, Archie Perkins, Hussein Elachkar, and I've given Matt Guelphy a go in this squad of 26 just because of his history against Hawthorn and the way he's performed against the club, but also the fact that there isn't really much general forward coverage on ground level, that we have available. And, Isaac Kako and his fitness, it seems like it's going to be a 50-50 at this stage, it seems. But if that is the case, you're going to need some general forwards on the outside in case, there is some last-minute soreness. You can't go into a game against Hawthorn round one with Hussein Elachkar, a debutant, as your only general forward. So that's why I think Matt Guelphy is more likely to feature in the squad over someone like an Archer May or a Sardell Hawley or someone who's been involved in the practice games. I just think that's the play. You don't want to hedge all your bets on Isaac Kako's fitness. You got to have some plan Bs, and Matt Guelphy I think is my plan B. So that's my predicted squad of 26, and to be honest, it's not a bad one. I think there's clearly areas that are very strong. I like that midfield, like Zach Merritt in that midfield does look a lot better. It adds dynamism, especially if Archie Roberts runs through it as well. Isaac Kako potentially as well. The key forwards I think are getting stronger and stronger by the day as well with their chemistry building. The general defenders, there are a lot of them. That's going to be the zone that probably misses out the most in terms of players playing in the best 23. There'll be someone from those general defenders I don't think that will play. But yeah, overall, there are still names missing on the outside as well. Like Jordan Ridley is still has to come back into the team, and that will definitely boost up that key defensive zone. If this is our predicted squad, or our squad of 26, the one I'm predicting, I'd be happy with it. I think the only real question marks are Matt Guelphy, Archer May, and Sardell Hawley, really. Well, let's look at those predicted absentees, actually, and kind of discuss the players that I've left on the outside. Sardell Hawley is definitely a chance to be in the squad. He's been involved in all the practice games for the Bombers in the squads of 26, which shows that he is genuinely in the discussion. They're thinking about what he looks like in that main team. And to be fair, he is someone who is kind of like he's almost like that not perfect, but he's that squad role player that you really want in the team because he can play multiple positions. He is versatile and he adds real flair and attack and aggression to the team. If we're looking for fast, quick ball movement, which is kind of what the AFL is going towards, trending towards in terms of game style, Sardell Hawley is definitely a name that could be involved there. So I think his preseason performances, yes, they've been strong, but probably hasn't been involved in the main team enough to be really in the conversation for round one, but I think this guy will play footy this year, Sardell Hawley. Kale Jarine, I'm not quite sure. I think he'll start the year in the VFL, or he definitely will start the year in the VFL. It really just depends on injuries. Like, I don't think this guy would approach the main team unless a Ben Mackay or a Zach Reed went down with injury, to be honest. You go to the midfield, Elijah Sardis, like, I never really fully bought the kind of excuse that the club gave for Sardis missing that first practice game against Richmond. Like, if you're a senior player that you want to get minutes under the belt, they'd give you an opportunity to do so. And we had a squad of 30. We didn't use 4 of them. Elijah Sardis played in the VFL with some of those players. Like, I think if he was to be in the conversation for round one footy, he'd be playing in one of those practice games. He was fully fit for that second one against the Saints VFL team and apparently performed really well. So there's that. He's probably going to have to break into the main team through the VFL like he's been doing his whole career so far, which is just really unfortunate for him. Nick Cox, Harry Jones, they both performed in the VFL practice game against St Kilda recently. That is good news. They're both integrating from injury, so Yes, I guess they're technically available to play, but you'd want some match fitness under the belt before they do. Vigo Vicentini will play VFL. I think we saw in the hit out against Richmond that his ruck craft it's developing, and he's very young, so that's not a problem, but it's developing. You go to the forwards that are missing out. There's a few here that could be considered pretty stiff to miss out. I think there's genuinely 2 or 3 there that would play, round 1 at another team, potentially. Archer May's the big one. Like, he's been playing in the practice games. He kicked 2 goals in a quarter against St Kilda in that last practice game. This isn't me, saying that what I want to happen with this squad. I'm just thinking, my thought process here, including Guelphy over Archer May, is that the small forward zone is quite unstable in terms of, we don't know if Isaac Kako is going to play for starters. He is a 50-50 at this stage. He's 1 or 3 weeks away. So it's hard to know if he's going to play. And if that's the case, if we're not sure if he's going to play now, you do need coverage in that squad in case he pulls up sore, during the warm-up or during training the day before or something like that. So that is why I think Matt Guelphy is a more likely option to be in the round 1 squad over Archer May. That might change in round 3. If Isaac Kako is fully fit, maybe it's Archer May in the squad instead and Matt Guelphy on the side playing VFL footy, for the week. But I just think while there's a bit of uncertainty around Isaac Kako, the more logical thing to do would be to provide coverage on ground level, especially because if Isaac Kako doesn't play and there's no general forwards listed in the emergencies, the only general forward or ground level forward would be Hussein El Achkar, who has yet to play a game of AFL footy. So that is why I think Matt Guelphy will be included. Experience, yes, Archer May's performed better this pre-season, but it's a different position. You can't really compare the two, and all 3 of our key forwards are fully fit and firing right now. So I think Archer May misses out on the squad. I think Liam McMahon misses out on the squad. That kind of is a pretty obvious one. I think he's probably going to play a fair bit of VFL footy this year and struggle to break into the AFL team, and I've said that all pre-season, really. Gresham and Day Wicks. Something else I've said all pre-season is that the general forward zone will be a revolving door of players. I think Kako and Huss are pretty clear the 1-2 punch to start the year. Whether that will change as the year goes on, we'll see. But if not, you've still got a third option there available if the club wants to use a third small forward. Guelphy, Gresham, Day Wicks, it's really hard to split those 3 players, to be honest, for the season. I think Guelphy gets the squad spot ahead of these 2, but these guys will play through the VFL. I'm sure they'll impress at some stage, but I don't think they're quite in the round 1 frame just yet. So here is my predicted round 1 team against the Hawks. Now, I am fairly confident in 22 of these 23 players, providing they're fully fit. The one spot I am not 100% sold on yet is that final bench spot, which I'll get to in a second. You get to the defence though, Andy McGrath, Ben Mackay, Jaden Ewan on that back zone. I think Jaden Ewan is going to play round 1. He might line up on Nick Watson, might be Jack Ginnivan or someone like that, but I think he will be playing round 1, and he's proven himself over this pre-season. The amount of first team footy he's played is what sold it for me. Like, it's not even his performances, but just the trust that the club has given him. You've got Mason Redman, Zach Reed, and Zach Johnson. Johnson, I think, has earned his round 1 spot as well, given those incredible back-to-back performances against Richmond and St Kilda. I think it was kind of a battle between Johnson and Farrow for that halfback flank, seeing who plays where. Johnson's been the better performing of the 2. I personally think Farrow might start in the VFL, but we'll get to that in a second. Jackson Pryor, Zach Merritt, and Braden Fiorini. I've still got Jackson Pryor on the wing. That's not a personal preference. In an ideal world, I don't want Jackson Pryor on a wing. I want Xavier Dersma on a wing. I just think the club's been sticking with it for so long. We're going to see rotations anyway. I think we'll see Pryor on the wing at times in this game. We might see Dersma on the wing at times in this game as well, but I unfortunately do think Pryor will be playing on a wing. Dersma, Caddy, and Durham in the forward line. Durham obviously rotating in the midfield. I think Dersma will still feature on the wing, as I said. Kako on ground level in the forward line as well. That is if he is deemed fit to play, and if he is, that is going to be really exciting seeing him link up with Hussein El Achkar. I think you guys are going to absolutely love the footy these 2 play together. They're both very exciting ground level players. And then you've got Peter Wright and Kyle Langford as those key forwards supporting Nate Caddy in the air. Lockie Blackiston in the ruck, of course. Darcy Parish and Jai Caldwell round out the midfielders. And then on the bench, you've got Dyson Sharp making his debut. Archie Roberts, who I think will run between midfield and defence a little bit, maybe wing a bit as well. Angus Clarke, Hussein El Achkar making his debut, and Max Kondagiannis is the one I am am not quite sure on just yet. So realistically, if Isaac Kako is fit to play, you have got 22 players there that are pretty much locked into this round one team. Like, I don't think you can really argue that you can argue with your own opinion that you think some of these players should not be playing, but aside from Max Kontagiannis, I think that 22 is locked in. I can't really see anything changing, and if it does, I'd be very surprised. I think those 22 players really performed the best over this preseason. They've been performing in the senior team more than anyone else. It's really hard to justify moving players from the outside in over those guys. Yes, you might try to, but I'm talking about predicting this team, not my own opinion. My own opinion, I'd have some different players shuffled around, Jackson Pryor on the wing being one of them, but those 22 players I think are locked in. Really, it's just that 23rd, whether or not it is Max Kontagiannis, whether it is Archie Perkins if he's fit from injury, whether it's Jacob Farrow. I think there are a few options you could go with there. Matt Guelphy on ground level, he's played really well against the Hawks historically as well. I just think with Jordan Ridley missing and the coverage in the air not looking the greatest against a pretty potent Hawthorn forward line, Max Kontagiannis with that blend of being able to play tall and small. He obviously played on Naz a fair bit last week as well, but also wing a bit. I think there's just more room for Max Kontagiannis to fit in this team. It's often hard because you look at, if you're talking about this after the draft, you're thinking it's Jacob Farrow a lock and Kontagiannis, later in the year. But that's why once you get into an AFL system, you do kind of have to forget about draft position a little bit and where players are picked in the draft. That's why Sullivan Roby has to return through the VFL. He is a player on this team. He's not pick 8 or pick 9, whatever he was anymore. He is a player on the team. So is Max Kontagiannis. So is Jacob Farrow. So yeah, I personally think at the moment, it might change, but, you've seen Kontagiannis training with the A team more than Farrow. Farrow's been with the B team a bit recently with Kontagiannis in the A team. Farrow played less than half of the game against the Saints in that practice game. Kontagiannis played a fair bit of it. So that is why I think Max is the more likely of the players on the outside there to make his debut. I also think, by the way, if you're arguing Pryor shouldn't be on a wing and it should be Farrow instead, I don't think the club is going to go out and add, 4 or 5 debutants in round one. I think that would almost be a really good way to ensure that you go out and try and lose this game. There's so much youth as it is. You've got Newen, Johnson, you've got, Kako, Roberts, Caddy. There's already 7, Clarke. There are about 7 or 6 players there that are, first or second or third year players. You add the debutants to that as well. It's about half the team that could be, in their first, second or third year. So, yeah, I think that is what I think the best 23 is going to look like for round one against Hawthorn. Obviously, opposition taken into account as well. If this is a smaller team, you don't need that Max Kontagiannis. You can go in with a Guelphy on ground level or a Perkins. I still think there's every chance that Perkins does get the go, even though he's had less game time, just because the club, Scott and his co clearly like Perkins in this team, and that's why he was playing in that practice game while guys like Cox and Jones were off to the side in the VFL. But yeah, that is my best 23. Look, it's a tough one to nail down. It's been a tough one to nail down all preseason. Like, the fact that I'm debating Kontagiannis and Farrow it's tough because you haven't seen either of them really play AFL footy. And the thing is, right, Farrow probably underperformed a little bit last week against the Saints, but he was so good against Richmond as well. So is that recency bias? Maybe, probably yes. Like, now that I'm saying it, Farrow could well be on that bench spot, but I just think, seeing Max being utilised more at training in the absence of Jordan Ridley has given me, I guess, the optimism and faith that the club sees him as a genuine player, not for the future, but now as well. And honestly, if that's the case, I'd be happy. You guys know I'm a big Max Kontagiannis fan, and I have been since he was drafted, so it would help me feel better about myself and my predictions and opinions if he does play round one, because I think he's going to be a really good player for the club. But yeah, it is a young team. It's probably, realistically on paper, a team that is going to struggle against Hawthorn. That defence is getting thin without Jordan Ridley. You've got some young players in the forward line. It really is a team that's relying on the output of its younger players, which is never a good sign that you're going to be a consistent and reliable team throughout a season. I'm going to have my season preview and predictions out next week, and I'll talk about where I think we're going to finish. But looking at the best 23 as it is, yes, it's exciting. Yes, you've got players there for the future, but it's not really one that you're going to rely on all year, is it? And also, by the way, it does go without saying, I could be so wrong here. Like, I could get all 23 players wrong and we go out there with a VFL team. There's no guarantees a week before teams are listed. Even in some of the team news that we're getting from other games for opening round, you're seeing some surprises with debutants and club debutants named. Like, it's never really set in stone, before the teams are announced. So I could be well off here, but this is, like, I'm fairly confident that at least most of this team is going to be pretty spot on. I think we've got enough evidence from both training and practice matches that this is going to be most of the best 23 that we see. Really, with that bench spot with Max Contagianis, which is the one that I'm most unsure about, it's just about what we're prioritizing with our system and structure. And unfortunately, as fans, who don't have access to Brad Scott's brain, we don't know what that's going to be. We might be completely wrong there because we might be trying to play a different way against Hawthorn. And I think that's also the fun thing about this season before I go, is that you have different lineups for different teams. Like, you can see us lining up very differently against Port Adelaide than we would against Hawthorn, and that is what you really benefit from having good squad depth from. You can change up your team against certain oppositions. We didn't have that luxury last year when we had all those injuries. This year, I think we do, and we might see that a little bit more. Like, it won't just be a revolving door of players being in and out from the forward line. I could see it being other positions as well. But guys, that is all for now. I've got plenty more to come. I've got my season predictions and preview coming up right around the corner. I've got a video with a good Hawthorn friend. You guys would remember Julian from last year. We successfully negotiated a trade for Zach Merritt. If only they had both of us on the committee at Essendon and Hawthorn. But we're going to be doing a combined Hawthorn and Essendon best 23, so stay tuned for that. I've got my match preview out next week as well for the round 1 game, the squad selection on Friday, and then after that we've got the reaction to the massive win against the Hawks. I'm manifesting it. We're going to be belting the Hawks. We're going to be doing a player ratings where every player gets 10 out of 10s. Then that's going to be the case for the whole year until we win the flag. So thank you for watching, Bomber fans. Make sure you like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. Thank you, Spotify listeners, for tuning in, and as always, go Bombers.